Welcome to Light. Today we are talking about the fact that Tucker Carlson has mildly asked for a little bit of evidence on this whole voter fraud thing. And the right wing's really not taking that so well. You see, when you ask questions, they turn into triggered little snowflakes most of the time. The irony that they ever tried to push that narrative off on anyone else is completely beyond me, but if we can get this Fox player over here, this fucking shit to work, that'll be good. This is like one of the worst video players I've ever fucking tried to mess with, so bear with me here, but let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time on this. Tucker Carlson asks this insane lady that was up there talking with Rudy Giuliani the other day. He apparently has asked her for some evidence, and obviously, because there isn't any, she hasn't given him any evidence. Come on, Fox player. You can do it.
Rudy Giuliani and a number of the president's other lawyers held a press conference today on the topic of voter fraud. If you didn't actually see it, you've probably heard about it by now. Giuliani, along with a former federal prosecutor called Sidney Powell and a number of others, alleged that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump. To demonstrate that, they exhibited some of what they
huge allegation, by the way.
The presentation went on for 90 minutes with many different threads, which we'll tell you about in a moment. How you viewed it depended largely on who you voted for. Trump voters seemed hopeful that it might change the election results. The left, and virtually every single person in all of the news media, immediately dismissed it as an embarrassing clown show as well as a threat to the republic. The very same people who swore that Vladimir Putin's agents controlled the U.S. government.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we dismissed it as an embarrassing clown show, largely, and you picked a very flattering picture from that conference of Giuliani, largely because he was literally bleeding sad clown makeup right the fuck down his face, because he was in such a sweaty fucking frenzy, because he knows he doesn't have any evidence on this. He knows he's literally lying through his teeth, so he's probably up there having a fucking heart attack about all the potential legal action that could be taken against him for all this shit he's done. That's why we called it a clown show. But anyway, to the point.
Called it a conspiracy theory. Of course they did. We'll have more on that in a minute. But first and more important, there is another way to look at what we saw this afternoon, and you don't have to be a partisan or even interested in the election to understand it. A lot of Americans believe this election was rigged. They're not saying that because they're crazy. They're not just saying it because they're mad. They mean it. And that's a potentially fatal problem for this country. Elections aren't merely, quote, central to democracy. Elections are democracy. Voting is the way the public expresses its will. It's all people have. If elections don't work, our entire system doesn't work. Everything in this country depends on fair elections. And it's obvious even now that we don't have them. When access to basic information is restricted and weaponized by a partisan billionaire class, and it is, you can't have a fair election. By definition, it is not possible. Google and Facebook are far greater threats to our system than Russia has ever been, and we need to fix that immediately. In the meantime, though, the voting itself, which was the topic of today's press conference, let's assess what the president's lawyers said about it today. Their allegations matter regardless of what the eventual outcome is. Rudy Giuliani began by saying the Democrats stole the election, and they did it with a coordinated fraud in a number of states. Giuliani did not conclusively prove that, as every news reader on television promptly informed you. But he did raise legitimate questions, and in some cases he pointed to what appeared to be real wrongdoing. At one point, Giuliani held up an affidavit from a worker from the city of Detroit called Jesse Jacob. The affidavit alleges fraud in Detroit's polling places. Here's part of Giuliani's explanation.
She was assigned to voting duties in September, and she was trained by the city of Detroit.
I don't remember exactly where this happened.
She was basically trained to cheat. She said that I was instructed by my supervisor
here we go.
to adjust the mailing date of
I'm going to
the
skip ahead
ballot
here.
packages.
Easier to falsify and harder to verify than traditional voting is. That's clearly true. Everyone knows it's true, and it's a major problem. Pretending otherwise is a lie. And then Giuliani got to the way votes are counted. In this country, the process is mostly electronic. Giuliani suggested that electronic vote counting is an invitation to fraud, and he's right. That's
He
why
is right
Canada,
about that.
for example, doesn't do it.
It's
All
very
of which brings
easy
us to the
to
bombshell at the
mess around with.
center of today's
That's
press
why we like
conference.
paper
That
ballots
was
on the
delivered by
left.
former prosecutor Sidney Powell, who has also served as General Mike Flynn's lawyer. For more than a week, Powell has been all over conservative media with the following story. This election was stolen by a collection of international leftists who manipulated vote tabulating software in order to flip millions of votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
God, I wish we were
The
that
other day
cool.
on television, Powell said of Trump that when the fraud is finally
We're just a bunch of
uncovered,
dorky people
I
with
think we'll find
principles
he had at
and
least
ideas.
3 million votes. In other words, rigged software stole about 7 million votes in
Yeah, that's
this
just
election.
insanity.
Here's some of what Powell said today about the software.
One of its most characteristic features is its ability to flip votes. It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran.
Dear God, I wish this stupid Fox player didn't like do that, so that I could ask you guys like, how many of you had this fucking nightmare of a teacher when you were in school, right? Right? And her name was probably even Sidney Powell. Like that, perfect. It was the main class of the day. Like, you know, you get out of the fucking science class, you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty fun. And, oh, I'm gonna go do my extracurricular class, and then like, oh, maybe some fucking we're gonna read some cool books or whatever the fuck in English. And then you get to the Miss Sidney Powell's class, and you're like, oh no, here comes that fucking part of the day again. Jesus Christ, that has nothing to do with the story, but boy, howdy, isn't that not fucking true?
All over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system.
The fucking Donald Trump red tsunami was so powerful that it broke every fucking election like counter in the country because of how many people voted for Trump. And that's why Biden won? Like, this is fucking ridiculous.
And that's what caused them to have to shut down in the states they shut down in.
That was a few hours ago, but Sidney Powell has been saying similar things for days. On Sunday night, we texted her after watching one of her segments. What Powell was describing would amount to the single greatest crime in American history.
I kind of want to see what those text messages look like. Don't you? Like, what would texting somebody who believes all this shit be like? Or like anyone, like, oh my God. Like, imagine, like, we all know, like, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones have, like, texted back and forth. Like, I wonder what that looks like, too. Like, does he ever fucking, like, break out into a screed over text, you know? Like, I wonder if this bitch does, too. Whatever. Let's go.
Millions of votes stolen in a day. Democracy destroyed. The end of our centuries-old system of self-government. Not a small thing. Now, to be perfectly clear, we did not dismiss any of it. We don't dismiss anything anymore, particularly when it's related to technology. We've talked to too many Silicon Valley whistleblowers. We've seen too much. After 4 years, this may be the single most open-minded show on television. We literally do UFO segments, not because we're crazy or had even been interested in the subject, but because there is evidence that UFOs are real and everyone lies about it. There's evidence that...
Don't come after me here, people. But that fucking Commander Fravor tape, I mean, what was that? I went from somebody thinking that UFO, this is totally off topic from what we're discussing here, but I went from going from somebody who completely dismissed everything to do with UFOs as just like another fucking tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, but when you've got people like Commander Fravor's videotape of that shit he was chasing, and there was some other guy, David something, and he has another one that's kind of similar. These fucking fucking fighter jet pilots, they have chase cams of these things that beep, break the lock. Now, I don't necessarily listen to anything else, but when I see those tapes and I hear their stories, that's some fucking if nothing else, that's some minor evidence of UFOs on this planet. Obviously, aliens exist. Like, you're fucking insane if you don't think that. I mean, the universe is fucking never ending almost. I mean, it's ever expanding. And it's actually expanding faster. It's not even slowing down from the Big Bang. So, obviously, aliens exist. Because we exist. There's your proof. We're a planet in space with life. So, obviously, since we know it can happen all over the place. But the whole thing is like, are they here? And they kind of are. So if Tucker Carlson has covered that, I mean, he's not necessarily crazy for that. I bet some of my buddies on the left will say he's crazy for that. They probably just haven't seen or paid much attention to what I just mentioned, the Commander Fravor fighter jet tailing tapes.
That a lot of things that responsible people used to dismiss out of hand as ridiculous are in fact real. And we don't care who mocks it. The louder the Yale Political Science Department and the staff of the Atlantic magazine scream, "conspiracy theory," the more interested we tend to be. That's usually a sign you're over the target. A lot of people with impressive sounding credentials in this country are frauds. They have no idea what they're doing. They're children posing as authorities, and when they're caught, they lie and then they blame you for it. We see that every day. It's the central theme of this show and will continue to be. So that's a long way of saying we took Sidney Powell seriously. We had no intention of fighting with her. We've always respected her work. We simply wanted to see the details. How could you not want to see them? So we invited Sidney Powell on the show. We would have given her the whole hour. We would have given her the entire week, actually, and listened quietly the whole time and rapt attention. That's a big story. But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page. When we kept pressing, she got angry and told us to stop contacting her. When we checked with others around the Trump campaign, people in positions of authority, they told us,
what a fucking... teacher, I believe what you just said there and drew on your little chalkboard is factually, objectively false. Now, if you're gonna question the teacher, then I'm gonna have to send you to detention! Like, that is just so like this bitch. I'm getting such dipshit fucking teacher vibes from her. Oh my god. He asked for fucking evidence of the biggest allegation in history, and she got pissed at him and told him to stop questioning her. Man, how weak. And how obviously untrue everything you're saying is. You got pissed off that Tucker fucking Carlson, somebody who could have spun this shit any way you wanted it to be, to make it sort of plausible. This guy was too much for you? This guy! Come on, man.
Powell has never given them any evidence either, nor did she provide any today at the press conference. Powell did say that electronic voting is dangerous, and she's right. We're with her there. But she never demonstrated that a single actual vote was moved illegitimately by software from one candidate to another. Not one. So why are we telling you this? We're telling you this because it's true. And in the end, that's all that matters, the truth. It's our only hope. It's our best defense. And it's how we're different from them. We care what's true, and we know you care too. That's why we told you. Maybe Sidney Powell will come forward soon.
All right, let's not go crazy here, okay? Let's not go crazy, Mr. Tucker. You're the guy that fucking kind of bought into like white genocide and shit. Like, you're not always the beacon of truth. Like, you're not always the shining light at the end of the tunnel, always guiding you the right way. Okay, fuck off. But yeah, this is really sad, and he's right on this one. There you have it. They got nothing, even from their buddies. Their buddies that make a whole living off of spinning things like this into somewhat of a reasonable reality. I mean, what more can be said, actually? Yet they're still going to be saying it. You know they are. You know that they're going to be out there. There's going to be 15 more press conferences of them just making shit up. Of them pointing to affidavits like it's a fucking scientific peer-reviewed study. Affidavits are like eyewitness testimony. That's not the greatest evidence. It's really not. What's great evidence is, I don't know, video, pictures, audio, anything. Anybody can say, I saw this. There's your affidavit. To the conspiracy people, why the fuck can you not see that this is ground zero for conspiracies? What they're doing right in front of your face. They're fucking lying to you, my friends. They are lying through their teeth right at you. And you're saying that someone else is doing a conspiracy because somebody that you didn't like won an election. That's not how conspiracies are supposed to work. Conspiracies were supposedly, it doesn't matter like what you like and don't like it. You're the truth seeker, right? So why does Biden ever come into the equation? By the way, Trump did nothing for you for the 4 years. He did nothing for you. He's not going to do anything more for you in the next 4 years if he were to get reelected, which he didn't. Biden won. He didn't do anything for you. You have bought into an emotional lie that has no ground in reality. And it's really sad. I wish that you could see that. I don't know, we are going to have to, on the left and other political affiliations, we're going to have to figure out a way to get through to you guys, because this isn't about political gotcha game. You're denying like obvious reality now. And you're pretending that conspiracies are where normal is, rather than this fucking shitty teacher of a bitch that would have fucking failed you for looking the wrong way in class. You're fucking pretending like she's the truth teller. Well, so much for questioning authority. Come on. Anyway. This was light, bitch. Subscribe below, like the video, drop a comment, share it with your friends, do whatever the fuck you want, because I love you, and I hope that you soon love me. The light is coming. I want you to have a wonderful day, and that'll be all.